Well, Donald Trump is officially isolated. While the world's attention is fixed on the chaos in Washington, Canada just executed a strategic move that has effectively destroyed the MAGA model for governing north of the border.
For the first time ever, a minority government in Canada has converted itself into a full majority between elections, through by-election wins and MPs making the choice to walk away from politics built on anger instead of solutions.
This isn't a backroom deal like Pierre Poilievre is screaming into every single microphone he can find. This is the electoral map of Canada rewriting itself in real time.
And it matters because while Donald Trump's allies are falling across the globe from Europe to South America, Canada has just built a fortress of stability that Trump cannot touch and his Canadian imitators cannot explain.
So today, we're breaking down why this majority changes everything for Canada's power on the world stage and why it has left the MAGA movement in Ottawa completely humiliated.
So let's look at the mechanics, because the how is just as important as the what. A minority government is a government under constant threat. Every vote is a survival exercise. Every long-term plan is subject to a snap election.
And for the last 2 years, that's exactly what the opposition was counting on. They weren't trying to govern, they were trying to trigger a collapse. But that strategy, it just backfired.
By winning seats like Terrebone, a riding that is essentially a barometer for the country's mood, and by attracting MPs who realized the Conservative banner was becoming a mega-light experiment, this government didn't just survive, it expanded.
This is the first time a Canadian government has moved the needle from minority to majority mid-mandate. It's an incredible display of political gravity shifting towards the center and away from the edges.
And the timing is what makes this a global story. While we saw the fall of Viktor Orbán in Hungary just yesterday, a man Trump heralded as the gold standard of leadership, Canada was busy proving the same strongman rhetoric that Orbán used simply has no purchase here when faced with actual results.
Now, Pierre Poilievre is out there telling his base that this is a betrayal of democracy. He's using the exact same vocabulary we saw in the US in 2020. Delegitimize the outcome because you didn't win the outcome.
It's a desperate play. Because if by-elections and parliamentary floor crossings are backroom deals, then Pierre Poilievre needs to explain his own career.
Exactly. This is a leader who lost his own seat in a general election. He only returned to parliament because a safe seat was cleared for him in a curated by-election. He used the system when it benefited him, but now that the system is delivering a liberal majority through the same democratic channels, well, he calls it a conspiracy.
And the reason MPs are leaving him isn't a deal, it's a realization. They are looking at the rhetoric. They are looking at the alignment with the most chaotic elements of the U.S. right. And they are choosing to sit with a government that is actually governing.
You don't get to majority by accident. You get there because the alternative has become so toxic that even your own elected members are looking for an exit.
So here's also what a lot of commentators are missing. This majority gives Canada something the U.S. doesn't have right now. Stability.
Yeah, think about the trade tables, CUSMA, CETA, the Indo-Pacific agreements. When you're a minority government, your partners are always looking past you to the next election. They are hesitant to sign a 20-year deal on energy or massive infrastructure partnerships if they think that the government will fall in 6 months.
And now that doubt is gone. Canada has a mandate that is set in stone. When Canada walks into a room with the EU or the G7, they're not looking at a government hanging on by a thread. They are now looking at one of the only governments that can actually follow through for years to come.
And while Trump is throwing the global system into complete chaos, from Venezuela to Iran to threats against allies, Canada is doing the exact opposite. It's showing the world it can be counted on, and that majority is the proof.
Listen, this isn't complicated. Money goes where things feel stable. And right now, Canada looks stable and the US doesn't. This majority is a signal to global capital that Canada is the safe harbor, while the US remains in a state of permanent chaos and late-night rants.
And the political story is starting to line up with that reality. We can't ignore what just happened in Hungary. Orbán became the example for the global right. The guy people pointed to and said, see, you can push things pretty far and still stay in power.
Trump celebrated him. Poilievre's advisors, well, they studied him. And yet, the Hungarian people just ended that era. They saw the corruption, they saw the isolation from Europe, and they chose a different path.
And the same thing is happening here. The MAGA playbook relies on the idea that their movement is an unstoppable wave. But look at the pattern. Orbán is out, and Canada just secured a majority that prevents that wave from ever reaching here in Canada.
Trump is becoming an island. His global coalition of authoritarian leaders is shrinking by the week. And Canada's majority is the final piece of evidence that politics built on outrage and division is failing when it meets a population that values stability over chaos. And for those of you outside of Canada who are wondering how a parliamentary system works and wondering how a minority government can become a majority without a national election, check out our other video where we break down how our parliamentary system works and how it differs from the US presidential system.
So here's the way we see it. Canada has just fortified its democracy at the exact moment that the rest of the world is choosing sides. This majority isn't just a win for a party, it's a rejection of the Trump-style politics that tried to take root here.
Poilievre is left with the rhetoric of a loser, while the government is left with a mandate of a majority. His style of politics didn't just hit the wall here, it collapsed. Canadians, we've had enough.
We certainly have. Now, we want to hear from you. Today, here's our question. Is Canada now the most stable democracy in the G7? Or is this majority just a temporary shield against the MAGA wave that is still building south of the border?
Drop your thoughts in the comment because we want to hear if you think this is a permanent shift or a temporary pause, because I think it's just the beginning.
Yep, me too. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and check out our pinned comment for today's question and all the fun stuff like links to our Substack, merch store, Facebook group, and the A-Team.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow with more fun political news.
Woo! Ciao for now.